Here's the kind of an example of the sufficiency condition. If the sufficient condition is true, it is guaranteed that the conclusion must be true. Again, if P then Q. Suppose we have an exam with the following rules. If you score more than 80%, you will pass the course. Here, scoring 80% is a sufficient condition for you to pass the course. Okay? The way to remember is to find an example that you can stick in your brain. If this is the example that sticks in your brain, go with it. Okay? You'll use sufficient. So the sufficient condition for passing is an 80% score. Okay? Cool. So it's, for example, it's not possible that someone scores more than 80% and they don't get an A. That's what we are saying is not possible. All right. So if sufficient condition hypothesis is false, we cannot say anything about the conclusion. Okay. Sufficiency does not imply necessity. Okay? So something is sufficient for something else does not mean this is necessary for this thing to happen. Okay? These are two different aspects. If something is sufficient for something else to happen, that something is not necessary for this thing to happen. This thing might be happening anywhere. Okay? Are we good? Can you guys think of an example that sticks in your brain? Sports metaphor or something, yeah?
You can pass even if you score less than 80.
Yeah, you can pass even if you score less than 80, right? Because it's not necessary for you to score 80% to pass the course. Okay? The statement is not saying that. Any other examples? Here's an example, okay? If we are playing against an associate team, Babar will score a century. Okay? All right? So this is a sufficient condition that whenever we play with, I don't know, what's the latest team, I don't know, Nepal or something, then Babar is going to score a century. But it's not a necessary condition for him to score a century. He may still score a century against, I don't know, what else, Zimbabwe or something, right? All right? I don't know if that sticks in your mind. But again, so...
Not a good example.
Not a good example? Okay, I'm sorry about that, Babar fans here. Okay, what should I... Yeah, okay, find your own example. Or come up with an example and tell me. Did I hurt a lot of people here? Okay, sorry guys. My bad. Okay, come back to the greatest example. Okay, if you score more than 80, you will get to pass the course. If you don't, you must still pass the course. Okay, so that's sufficiency.
That's another example.
Sure.
Babar will score a century against Australia, but Pakistan will not win.
Okay, right. So good. But write it in if then P, if P then Q form. Right. So we are talking about conditionals, right?
If Babar scores a century against Australia, then
Yes.
Pakistan will win.
Then Pakistan will win. Or do you want to say then Pakistan will lose?
Anything can happen, sir.
All right. Okay. Cool. Right. If it sticks in your brain, go with it. Okay. Find a crazy example that sticks. That's very important. That's what I'm saying. If you stare at these statements all day, the only thing that's going to help is an example. Okay. Most of the time, examples distract you from the truth. They compartmentalize your thinking philosophy. But when you're talking about logic, it helps you kind of internalize the logic. Once you have internalized the logic, then you can throw away the examples. Okay? So that's why it's important to find an example that your brain will always connect to, right? Brain is all about making connections. Okay? All right. If an employee does not work overtime, we cannot determine whether they will get a bonus or not. And this is based on the example which says that if you work overtime, then you will receive a bonus. Okay? But if you, so what that means is that working overtime is sufficient to get the bonus. Okay? But it's not necessary. Okay? That's the second part. I was supposed to say necessary somewhere on the slide. Oh, it's here. Okay. So to enter a concert, you must show a valid ticket. Here, valid ticket is necessary condition to enter the concert. Okay. So this is the if part to enter the concert, and this is the Q part. You must show a ticket. Okay. So Q part is necessary for P to be true. Okay. If you don't have a valid ticket, you cannot enter the concert. All right, moving on. This is, to access the app, you must know the correct password. Correct password, well, this Q part is necessary condition to access the app. Okay. इसकी जो false conclusion होगा, false conclusion would be that you don't know the correct password. Okay. If you don't know the correct password, you should not be able to access the app. Okay. So if you don't know the correct password, you cannot access the app. It's a must-have for the necessary condition. Questions? This is kind of written over what we were talking about for the last 5 minutes. Okay.